Hi, I'm Eric. This is the Longbox Review comic book podcast, and welcome to my November 2025 Reading Pile episode. This is the episode where I briefly discuss some of the comic books I read during that month, which numbered 75. But before I get into that, first I have some feedback from Michael on Facebook regarding some books that I talked about, I believe, last time. First up is Fantastic Four. Michael says, what an amazing issue to make Herbie a sympathetic character, echoing what I said about Herbie as well. As far as groupies, looks like Michael has ordered the trade paperback and may get most Mad Cave stories that way. As far as Batman, he likes the new look, really enjoyable. DCKO, weird premise, he says. Seems like DC's version of Secret Wars 40 years later. And he may drop it. So, Michael, if you're listening, please let me know if you still feel this way after reading issue 2 and beyond. As far as assorted crisis events, Michael said, I didn't know what to expect. Pretty enjoyable anthology. And for the new Fantastic Four series, the latest volume, what a great setup for the new series. I thought it was innovative how Reed Richards had a plan in place for just this sort of incident, which is something that I originally had in my notes, Michael, but for some reason decided not to mention that part. And I don't know, I just don't care for Reed always having a plan. I mean, yeah, he needs to be super smart, but at the same time, he has to have some sort of stumbling block when it comes to his intelligence. And maybe that's just, the personality quirks he has. Anyway, and from Travis, my good friend on YouTube, he left a comment regarding Superman the Kryptonite Spectrum. That dinner with Lois, yikes, he says. Yes, that was one of the most interesting parts of that first issue to me, and they haven't touched on it in the next 2 or 3, actually, because I just read issue 4. Will it be more than a throwaway in the story? That's what I suspect, but it is an interesting change in the Superman-Lois dynamic, if this is the only bit that we get. Okay, so I encourage you, be like Michael and Travis, and send me feedback on the episodes, and I'd be glad to read that back here.
Worlds would live,
worlds would die,
and DC Comics would never be the same again.
Crisis on Infinite Earths, the crossover so epic it reached every corner of the DC multiverse. Join DC Dave
and Doug Adamson as we discuss The Monitor Tapes,
a Crisis on Infinite Earths podcast.
Find us on your favorite podcatcher and join the discussion at themonitortapes.com.
So with that out of the way, here are my thoughts about some of the comic books I read in November. And we're starting with Archibald Saves Christmas and Marvel Team Up number 1. So I read all 3 of these for the Christmas Gab Bag episode already in your feed. And if you haven't listened yet, how will you know why a Thanksgiving comic book is part of a Christmas episode? Or how will Archibald save Christmas? Regardless, I had a great time talking about these comics with George from Meanwhile at the podcast. And the Marvel Team Up issue was his choice, incidentally. And it was the first time I'd read that. I had no idea it was set during Christmas time. So that was a fun little discovery. Go listen to that episode. Next up is Lazarus Fallen, issue 5. I haven't talked much about this series since issue 1 because it's been a bit of a slow burn so far, but that does not mean it's not good. Reading Lazarus throughout its entire run is like reading a novel series. What's set up in book 2 pays off in book 5, for example, and that makes it a very satisfying read to me. So far, the status quo at the beginning of Fallen has been slowly inching toward a climax, and issue 5 sets that up with Master Sergeant, now Commander Casey, being ordered to become the next Carlisle family Lazarus. Just as interesting, if not more so, is the complete 180 of Joanna's character over a long series of issues. I hated her at first, but now, not so much. I can't wait to see what she does to screw Daddy over. Action Comics 252, which is the facsimile edition that I bought, I was surprised that the cover story of the first appearance of Supergirl, Kal-El's cousin, wasn't the lead story. That went to Mentallo, also making his debut. There are so many things wrong with how Superman handles the appearance of his cousin on Earth, but that aside, and of course this is looking back on it after decades of reading comic books and also just life experience. With that aside, what was started here is why I think Kara Zor-El is a much more compelling Kryptonian superhero to her more famous family member. Action Comics 1091. When it was announced that this title would focus on Superboy as written by Mark Waid, I couldn't wait to read it. And while this is different than what I expected, that is an updated regurgitation of Superboy from the 50s perhaps, I appreciate not only Clark's journey of discovery and how to be a superhuman, I like how Waid is tying another DC character, namely Captain Comet, as Clark's mentor. I think this is a wonderful callback to the Golden Age miniseries, also known as JSA, The Golden Age, where Comet is presented as the new crop of heroes following in the JSA's footsteps near the end of that story. The Captain Comet we get here is past his prime, but I like the idea of him being that bridge in a weird sort of way between DC's Golden Age and Superboy, the next evolution of the superhero. I don't know if Waid had that in mind when he brought Captain Comet in, or if it's just a favorite character of his, but I like that. I like that idea of Comet being that bridge to, let's say, the Silver Age or something. Okay, One World Under Doom number 6. So first of all, that cover showing Doom stretching Reed Richards' head apart is just incredible. It's chilling. What a really cool image to entice you to read this issue. Not that I need a whole lot to entice me, given that Ryan North is writing this series. But in this specific issue, the debate between Mr. Fantastic and Emperor Doom was a lot of fun. Doom shows how savvy he can be with the public, while Reed sticks to his strength, logic, proving Doom is better at this particular argument. He does point out that several members of the superhuman community can better serve humanity if they wanted to, such as Stark's arc reactor technology to provide the world with clean energy, or Pym's particles to end hunger. You know, those pesky real-world solutions that make no sense in a superhero comic book. The other interesting story bit about this is the truth about what Doom is hiding in Latveria comes out, and it isn't pretty, and he doesn't react very well. So maybe Reed did win the argument after all. The star of this issue, to me, however, is David Curiel's colors. There's so many vibrant greens and blues, violets and reds, especially in the Latvian scenes, that really make you believe in the fantastic abilities of these people. And it's just gorgeous. I have another facsimile here, Detective Comics number 40. I've read a few of these Detective Comics facsimiles, and I can see why superheroes quickly became the stars of the show, because all of the non-superpower characters like Bart Reagan, Red Logan, and Speed Saunders are all pretty much drawn from the same hard-hitting, lucky-as-hell template. Having said that, I find myself enjoying the Speed Saunders and Slam Bradley features, mostly for the creator's skill, Speed by Fred Gardner and Slam by Jerry Siegel and Howard Sherman. In some ways, I prefer those stories to the Batman feature. The other interesting tidbit is the plethora of lettering styles, most of which I do not care for. I wonder when DC started imposing a house style to its lettering, because, man, what a morass of different styles. Some of which are just hardly even legible to me. Okay, next up is a Thor comic book, Immortal Thor, or set of comic books, Immortal Thor issues 16 through 20. Knowing that Mortal Thor not Immortal Thor, but Mortal Thor, is currently being published, takes some of the drama out of this series as it marches towards what I know is the inevitable end. But that's the risk I run reading trade collections as I do. In this volume, Thor continues to struggle with Roxanne, the spell that makes him dumb on Earth, and a son from a future timeline. So that at least was quite interesting to see him, become an instant dad and how he reacts to this son that he, current Thor never had, with the Enchantress. So it's just an interesting idea that Al Ewing is throwing out there. While I have all the trades of this run in my possession, I would have gladly just read the issues on the Marvel app, I realize now, as I will eventually do with the successor volume, the Mortal Thor. Because I do have to see how Al Ewing's story comes to an end. Okay, Star Trek issues 13 through 18. The reason I started reading this comic book was the return of Captain Sisko and the mystery of godlike beings in the Star Trek universe being murdered. What I apparently forgot was that plot having been wrapped up in the previous volume, I think. So this is a new arc featuring the Senkethi Coalition, a race mentioned a few times in Deep Space Nine. So basically we get Starfleet versus dinosaurs. in this volume, with some Romulans thrown in for good measure. I did enjoy seeing what Harry Kim has been doing and since Voyager ended, along with his reunion with Tom Paris, who's been a staple in this series so far. But I'm actually more interested in the new characters, especially Lily the Andorian, who essentially breaks Starfleet rules to help Kim do something that the captain didn't authorize or approved of. Hopefully the other two volumes I have will be a bit better overall for me. A volume that did improve for me over the first one was Public Domain, issues 6 through 10. I really enjoyed this set of issues, mainly because they focus on the family doing the work of creating the comic book that they set up in the first volume, along with the race they're in to beat the former publisher to the punch. Along the way, we learn more about the editor of the book back in the day. Anyway, her relationship with the boys' mother. Also, the assistant, or was she the assistant writer? I forget now what her role is, but anyway, her and her mother. There's more about them. We are fortunately spared the brother who had gambling issues, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting their names at the moment, and I didn't write them down in my notes. But anyway, his gambling issues were a big part of the previous set of issues, and so we're basically spared that. And so I'm glad, because I just didn't care for that at all. If this series ever comes back, I will be eager to read the next volume, because it's not done. The story is not done. A couple surprises, things that I don't think were announced, they just appeared on their respective apps, are the DC Marvel Flash and Fantastic Four team up, and the Marvel DC Thor and Shazam team up. And so the Go edition on the DC app, and the Infinity comic on the Marvel app. So they're both essentially short team ups to fight, the bad guys in here. Some things I liked in the Flash Fantastic Four story, seeing the Fantastic Four playing Gothamopoly, how artist Adrian Gutierrez used the scrolling nature of the Go format to show Reed stretching his arm across a large gutter space to reach for something. Letterer Josh Reed did similarly with the sound effects, stretching across down, in that vertical space. I really like those two aspects of this particular offering. Sue using her force field power to create a sled for Flash to pull. I think the thing refers to it as a sleigh. And the story started with a game and ends with Flash and Reed playing multiple chess games. So I like that, the bookend of the gaming aspect. So that was really neat. As for the Thor Shazam story, I liked how they used the name Captain Marvel to refer to the big red cheese in this story, which is something Marvel, I guess, can do, but DC can't. Although, to be fair, if they said Thor Captain Marvel, that would be confusing, right? Anyway, so someone got creative with the antagonist of the story, Mr. Mind, and his use of the abilities of the various characters from Marvel and DC. So Mr. Mind, these are the characters that he used to gain these abilities or powers, right? So Mephisto, evil; Ibis, magic; Sliggert, which is a character I was unfamiliar with. And then when I looked it up, it turns out it's a scroll god representing shapeshifting in Mr. Mind's pantheon here. Thor, might; Etrigan, cunning; Rao, science; Mixchispitalik, mischief; Icarus, power; Nightmare, fear; and finally Darkseid, evil. Interesting that evil is represented twice, which is something that is pointed out in the narrative itself. I appreciate that there are 5 characters from each company used here. I wonder if the writer or the editor involved with this had to come up with the 5 characters, or if they're going to use characters from both, how did they come up with Mr. Mind? Was it they come up with Mr. Mind first and then the characters representing his pantheon, or did they have other sets, other choices, to get to an even number of characters each? Anyway, that kind of stuff just kind of fascinates me. The last thing that I really appreciate about this, similar to the games aspect of the other offering, was that the lightning represented in this, that both Thor and Captain Marvel employ, prove useful to the story, and we see that throughout the story. Overall, I like the DC offering just a bit more because of the Jeremy Adams Gutierrez story. Plus, the artist took, like I said, better advantage of the scrolling nature of the issue, though Jethro Morales did make the lightning transformation scenes look really neat in the Marvel issue. Speaking of Fantastic Four number 2. Okay, I was wrong about something I said regarding issue 1. It wasn't Johnny who was fighting dinosaurs, it was Ben. Anyway, regardless, we get to see Reed and Sue using their abilities in very interesting ways. Reed pushes himself into the earth to place diamonds for Sue to find billions of years later. And Sue uses her force field power to bend light from outside into a dark cavern that she has to go into. I thought that was really cool, the way that she's just connecting, making a tube of, energy to reflect the light down into this cavern. It's really cool the way that Ryan North and his artists are depicting how Sue uses her abilities. In general, though, the first 2 issues of Fantastic Four, I'm reminded of when North first started his run nearly 3 years ago, where he stated that he wanted to spotlight the individual characters before having them come together as a family. So he kind of got a better handle on the characters. He's doing the same thing in these 2 issues as well. So I'm interested to see why he's doing that this time. Besides, it's just a great story. And these 2 volumes of Fantastic Four, and I realize that we're only 2 issues in, but it's really just the same volume, really. But anyway, great superhero storytelling all around. The Last Starship. This is a Star Trek series. I read the first 2 issues of that. I was excited when this Return of Captain Kirk series was announced. So when I saw the first 2 issues were on the Global Comics app, I read them as soon as I could. However, for a story that promoted the return of Kirk, he only appeared at the end of issue 1 and was hardly made use of in issue 2. But the end of the issue does portend more Kirk next time. I anticipate that Kirk and Captain Sato of the USS Omega will be butting heads a lot more as we go on. Other than that, I appreciate the filling in of the backstory of the burn. And if they did that in Star Trek Discovery, I wouldn't know because I've not finished season 3 and beyond. So, also bringing in the Borgified Agnes from Picard season 2, and I have to wonder, what else she may want out of this adventure, despite her protestations of being an ally. But really, the draw of this is Captain Kirk. How would Captain Kirk deal with the Federation Starfleet, I should say, of this time? So, another series that I read on the Global Comics app was The Dusk, issues 1 through 3. I actually had pre-ordered this collection by Alex Segura, Elizabeth Little, and David Hahn a while back, but then it was canceled by the publisher. To my surprise, it was solicited later as these single issue releases. And even though I wanted to read it, I decided I was going to wait for the trade again. However, like I said, it was on Global Comics, so I read these issues. It's a new to me superhero universe, and I'm always interested to see what people come up with for those kinds of stories. This one is it's kind of your typical man who dons a costume to help make things right. But this time it's public defender Jaime Nunez who was handed the mantle, I believe. It's not explicitly stated, but it seems like he was handed the mantle of the Dusk by his biological white dad, whom Jaime did not know. But he's now inherited the guy's estate, all the money, and this underground, bat cave, more or less. I think. I'm not sure. Or did Nunez take the money and do this? I'm not entirely sure what the backstory is yet. It's kind of frustrating, actually. This series is presented more or less as a modern Silver Age-esque superhero tale, complete with oddball villains like the Dust Mite and El Tiburon, who is the local mob boss in the story. And there's a surprising bit in, is it issue 3, I think, regarding El Tiburon and the Dusk. So I'm anxious to see where that goes. But overall, it has the tone of, to me, Batman the Animated Series and a similar art style. Or comparatively to the Earth Alpha Dragonfly Man from the Ahoy series. Generally, it did not blow me away, but interested me enough to continue reading it for now. Okay, I have a one-shot here, the Santos Sisters Halloween Special. This is a comic I picked up at Floating World Comics in Portland, Oregon, when I was visiting with Damien, who is Sleepy Reader 666 on YouTube. Given that the Santos sisters won an Eisner this year, I wanted to see what the hubbub was about when I saw this comic book on the shelf. I thought this holiday themed special would give me a taste without feeling lost in the narrative, but I came away from the Archie-like stories still not really understanding what Santos Sisters is about. That's not to say I did not enjoy the issue. Basically, if you want some Scooby-Doo-like scares, this is for you. I mean, it's very much like Archie comics with these two sisters who wear masks and do good things, I guess. I don't know. I need to find. I recently read that there's a collection of some of the Santos Sisters issues put out by Fantagraphics, so I need to find that and read those. Okay, next up is the Power Fantasy issues 6 through 11. I cannot believe two things about the story in these issues. One, there is a huge reveal regarding one of the characters. And two, what that character does to, is it Ezekiel? Forgetting my story here. I mean, I was expecting something like this that is, and I don't want to say what it is, but I was expecting something like this to happen, but not for another, 6 to 12 issues. McKelvey and company are kind of accelerating things. So interesting. And I can just see next volume, things are definitely going to hit the fan. All right. I just wanted to note a couple things about some Legion of Superheroes and Legionnaires issues that I read, specifically Legion of Superheroes 69 through 73 and Legionnaires 26 through 29 and annual number 2. One, I did not like how Rock is behaving and being judged for it by his peers, even if it is understandable and partially out of his control. And 2, Legionnaires 29 was the 750th comic book I read in 2025, thus meeting my reading goal for the year that I set out at the beginning. This happened near the end of November, so any comics I read in December are just gravy as far as my reading goal is concerned. Okay, I know I'm covering a bunch of subsequent issues from last Reading Pile episode, and I don't normally do that, but I have to say something about it. And DCKO number 2 is one of those, and this is the final book that I'll be talking about as well for this episode. I just want to say, wow, I was not expecting to actually like this series. I know I gave it faint praise last month and expressed my surprise then too, but the unexpected turn regarding Superman in issue 2 really shocked me. The reasoning for it makes sense for the character, which is the most important aspect to me. So, Snyder, you're doing it. You're doing a great job, because I did not, like I said, I didn't expect to really like this series. But now, the kid gloves are off now, baby, and DCKO may well be a surprise hit, at least from, my point of view. So I love being surprised, and my expectations being subverted, and DCKO is doing it for me. And, I am more than willing to say mea culpa. I got that wrong at first, and I've come to my senses. So, okay, that's all I have as far as the books that I wanted to talk about. The other comic books I read in November are as follows: JSA number 12. Thank goodness that story line is over. I'm looking forward to reading more of post 12 JSA. Justice League, the Omega Act Special. I wanted to read this, I think, because it was kind of I don't know if it was a prequel, prelude, or a bit of a follow-up to the whole dark side and what happens with Booster. Anyway, I don't remember anything about it. All right, Batman number 2. I almost included this on the list as one of those comics that I wanted to touch back on, but I'll just say I'm still interested. Absolute Superman number 12. Cheetah and Cheshire rob the Justice League number 3. I may have something to say about number 4 next time. Superman the Kryptonite Spectrum number 3. Ultimate Spider-Man number 19. The Ultimates numbers 14 and 15. New Avengers 1 and 2. I just have to say this New Avengers book, didn't really think I would like it, especially after that first issue, but issue 2 has turned me around. GODS, or Gods, One World Under Doom special. I think I read that because Ryan North wrote it. Captain Marvel number 34. This is the Marvel series, Captain Marvel, and it was included as part of a digital compilation that I bought a long time ago, and issue 34 was the last new issue in that compilation that I needed to read. So I'm all done with that now. Postal 13 and 14, continuing with that as well. Exceptional X-Men number 11. Batman Superman World's Finest number 44. Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton number 5. We get the reunion between Clark and Krypto. But again, I think issue 4 was probably the best of the 5 issues. Wonder Woman number 26, New Gods 11, Superman Unlimited number 6, Absolute Wonder Woman 13, Superman number 31, Justice League Unlimited number 12, and finally, New History of the DC Universe number 4. And I can't wait for the collection of that, so I can go back and read all of the reference material for it. So. And that's it. That's all I have for you for the Reading Pile November 2025 episode. Please send me an email at longboxreview@gmail.com. Leave voicemail or text me at 208-953-1841. I think it's time, folks, if you have any comments, send them in or like I said, text me. But a voicemail would be great because I would love to do another Q&A episode. I haven't done one of those in a long time. So, help me out. Help a brother out. Or you can converse with me via social media like Michael and Travis did at Longbox Review. Don't forget that you can now buy Longbox Review merch at my TeePublic store, and I'll have a link in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.